Hello everyone, I want to welcome you back to Sovereign Sandboxing, the YouTube channel where we build, play, and reflect on games that let us shape our own story. And as what seems to be the only kind of videos I'm making these days, we are back in my SimCity project and we are here in a special build, a build that you guys have actually voted for. And today we are going to be jumping into building out an arcade. And like I've done with some of my other videos in the name of trying to shorten the length of my videos and trying to give you guys something that isn't an hour long and that just takes up a little bit less of your day, I have decided to streamline the build out portion of it. So we are just going to jump into the speed play of the interiors, where I honestly think I kind of go off on this one here. So let's just dive into that speed build playthrough. In today's build, I set out to achieve a couple of things. The first thing being to build a family-friendly arcade. I also wanted to build an indoor roller rink, which is where we're really starting in today's build. And lastly, I also wanted to build a bowling alley as well. And the reason why I really wanted to add an arcade into the inner city here is because I wanted to add some family-friendly activities to the inner city in general. There are, understandably so, a concentration of bars and clubs within my downtown Sim City here. And I really wanted to just kind of open it up and just open up the downtown area to Sims of all ages, really. Or at least kids. I don't think toddlers can really hang out here. But yeah, I really wanted to kind of give a place for the kids and the teens to go visit. And oddly enough, the classification of the arcade, which was brought by the University expansion pack, has this kind of lot open until 4 o'clock in the morning, which I think is kind of, it definitely is a bit of a throwback to when arcades were open very late, but is that appropriate for kids? Definitely not. And I'm not too well versed in how arcades were ran back in the 80s and 90s, but I imagine that they would have like adult only hours or whatever after a certain period of time, just because having a kid in an arcade late at night just isn't a cool vibe. But anyways, I could be wrong on that one there. For those of you that did experience arcades in the 80s, 90s, and I guess 70s, like, you can sound off in the comment section below. Would love to learn a little more there, because when I reclassified this as an arcade lot, it said in the game that it's open until 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was even a happy hour. So it's just like, okay, not exactly the most family friendly lot classification, but I still wanted to add some family friendly fun. So I just kind of went with it. And I just decided not to add in any of the traditional mixology bars within this particular lot as well, just so that it wouldn't spawn mixologists, since there's already quite enough within this particular world, and I don't want to add any more NPCs or slash townies, I suppose, into the game if I don't have to, since I don't want to completely overrun the game with NPCs and townies. Like I said, we've got plenty of mixologists already. There's enough proprietors because we all know that I've built enough of those live show venue lots in here from the Showtime expansion pack, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. The goal with today's build is really to add some family-friendly fun, to open up the downtown, to offer more activities that are open to more ages. So I can really see like children and teens really loving this place as a hangout spot, because A, it's located right beside a subway station, and B, it's just a cool place, and a lot of kids and teens can actually interact with the objects that we have placed in the lot. And that was really the goal here. But yeah, I decided to skip out on the structure, and honestly, I love the way that the mid-rise structure looks. To me, it's very New York City inspired, and that has kind of been the theme that I'm really trying to play heavily into, especially with these uptown lot builds. And honestly, like when looking at the skyline and looking for this lot, I should say, this particular lot, the arcade, is absolutely going to get swallowed up by the surrounding builds that I'll be doing in the future, both the lot behind it and the lots beside it. And honestly, that's kind of intentional. It's like this little undiscovered, or yeah, it's like this little hidden gem, I should say, in the middle of the city. And you walk by it and you notice, or you take mind that it is an arcade, but you walk by and you don't actually interact, and you would never see it from afar. So that was sort of the feeling and the intention behind this, because I could have easily just placed one of those Roaring Heights skyscraper objects on top of it if I wanted to give it height, but I really didn't. I really wanted something that felt like it was swallowed up by the rest of the surrounding city. And if anything, it adds a little depth to the skyline as well, because it fills up a little bit of a gap. But that's building for a skyline, not necessarily building for a city. And although I've been doing a bit of both, admittedly, I do think that this particular lot was perfectly balanced the way it was. And honestly, I do love the way that the exterior looks. So let's talk a little bit about the story behind this. So realistically, in no way, shape, or form would I think that an arcade like this, a funplex like this, would ever exist in today's day and age within older historical structures that you would find in New York for those classic mid-rise buildings. No way, shape, or form would I think that something like this would ever exist. Firstly, I'm not too sure what the zoning is like for structures, for historical structures, so I don't even know if those would even allow, even if we did bring it into the context of New York City, which does all kinds of things with their buildings, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. But I don't think that this would realistically ever be built. And so the story that I've kind of crafted behind this is that they had a commercial tenant that was super aggressive, that was buying up all of the apartments within the neighboring structure. And what they did was they demoed a lot of those apartments, and they just kept expanding their funplex because they kept getting more and more business. And so that was the story that I was trying to tell with this, and that by the time this particular aggressive commercial tenant got to the third floor, the city finally kind of put a stop to it and was like, hey, you can't do this to the structure, yada yada yada. Here's a bunch of legal stuff that can't allow you to progress with your full vision there. So in a way, it's like a stunted vision, but in another way, it's like a fully realized vision at the same time, because it's this really cool urban funplex, as I like to describe it, where you have an arcade, you've got a roller rink, and we've also got a bowling alley in the basement as well. And so Sims just come here to have fun, and the way that it just kind of molds into the story, and I've done this with a lot of my lot descriptions, is I have been using a lot of legal and law stories, or not law stories, but a lot of legal and litigation stories to kind of explain how each of the lots came to be. And I know I've shared some of that vision with some of my previous builds. I always share the backstory and all that, but I reinforce it within the lot description itself. So yeah, that was my vision with this particular lot build, with this particular funplex build that I like to keep calling it. And even though I believe I just called it like Cosmos Lanes or something like that, just to keep the title simple, I might have actually called it a funplex. You'll have to find out in the download link, which will be in the pinned comment on this video that I will share with you guys. So if you are looking to download this, you can find it in that pinned comment. I usually get the pinned comment written and all that within a fairly timely manner when my videos release, but sometimes there is a little bit of a delay because I always schedule my videos to release, and then I just kind of go about my day and just, allow it to release on its own. So yeah, and then I come back and put in the pinned comment, so you might have to check back if you don't see it right away. In truth, I really needed a crazy backstory like that to fit these crazy ideas of mine into this tiny little urban lot, and to try to make it make sense. Because when I was looking at all the roller rink references that I could find on the internet, it looked like everything was very open air. It looked like there was multiple levels of overhead room, and so I really wanted to try to capture that within this build, and the only way to do it was to go into the other building structure and to build upwards. And so that's really where this wild backstory for this particular lot comes from, is just through my need to force my creative ideas into this tiny little space here. But hey, sometimes it makes for the best of lots. I don't necessarily think that this is like a stunning masterpiece, but I think it's pretty great at the end of the day. I did try to give this arcade a theme, and that theme is very lightly touched upon. It's just the theme of space and like outer space. And I really didn't want to lean too heavy into the theme because I have touched on that theme many times over in this city build. And like, for example, Saturn, the nightclub, that is totally outer space themed and kind of science fiction-y. And you know, there were also similar elements being shared by the cyberpunk apartment build that I was doing as well. And so I really didn't want to lean like too heavy into the outer space theme for this particular lot, but I also really wanted it as well because I feel like it's a great way to just add like some awesome pops of color in the middle of the city without it feeling so dreary and drab and all of that. And yeah, I decided not to lean too heavy into those outer space themes, but you'll see like little pops of it here and there, whether it's a pattern or whether it's a certain color combination. And to be honest, like the lighting did all of the heavy lifting for me, much like it does whenever I build with outer space themed interiors. So the lighting really did all the heavy lifting for me. However, I was really conscious in trying to pick lighting that I haven't really used before in terms of the color combinations. So that's really where I'm trying to differentiate it from all of the other lots. And I also, like, you know, because of that extended overhead space, and just to go back to that, because of the overhead extended space in the references that I was finding for the roller rinks, I found that I needed to really expand the second level a lot, and I tried to make it more like a viewing platform because that was really what my references were showing. They were showing this really fun roller rink derby on the ground level, and then up above it, it looked like there was a nice giant opening where people were watching people at the like rollerblading and all of that. So I really tried to capture that in the second level of this particular lot, and we do in fact go to a third level because I am sure that during this whole speed build process you're wondering where the arcade is actually going to come in. And well, the third level is really the meat and potatoes of the arcade because it includes all of the arcade games. And I was again looking for a lot of references for arcades, and especially like giant ones. And it really seems that arcades really, like an urban arcade really turns out to be more like a hole in the wall that has, you know, a couple of arcade games, but it isn't as extensive as what I ended up building here. And so I just kind of took that concept and tried to make it as large and as yeah, tried to make it as large as I possibly could for this particular lot build. Like, when I was building the arcade, in my head, I know I keep calling this lot a FunPlex, but that's really what I was thinking when I was building out the arcade on the third level, is like, what would make this a really fun place for Sims of all ages to really hang out. And it really just turned into this really extensive funplex that Sims can all visit and all of that. So the arcade part on the third floor really extends into it really just becomes a bit of a it becomes a bit of a behemoth in of itself. And I did try to include all of the arcade games that I possibly could find. I tried to include all of the other games as well. Like, there's a ball toss game. I surprisingly don't have the basketball game downloaded, so I was kind of surprised. I surprised myself by like not finding that in here. But anyways, um, that's something that I guess you guys can download and place in this slot if you would like. But yeah, there's something from the Sims 3 store where there's a basketball game. not the basketball net, but the actual like basketball arcade game that you throw balls into the holes. Anyways, I didn't have that, so I didn't include it in here. However, I did include every other arcade game I could possibly find, including those that came with the Roaring Heights world from the Sims 3 store as well. And I don't mean to talk a whole lot about the Sims 3 store by accident here, but that's honestly like where it came from. So yeah, I was sure to make sure to include all of it here. Again, that's the completionist in me that's really getting excited over finding an excuse to use all of these objects at least once in my game in this build here. And you know, like going forward, like for all of the Sims 3 builders out there, I challenge you to build a world where you use every single object at least once. Um, it is a challenge in some senses, and to make it make sense more so. But yeah, the third floor is really the meat and potatoes. I kind of feel like it is the proper crown that it should be. And had the commercial tenants here been more aggressive with their arcade, and if they did buy up the entire building as they were planning to, I'm sure that they would have expanded it into something absolutely nuts. so so yeah, that's kind of where I'm feeling with that one. Let's talk a little bit about the basement though, because the basement is something that gets me really excited because it takes me back to the glow bowling days of the 90s and early 2000s. And yeah, I really wanted to capture that in this particular lot. So this is actually one of the very few times where I use the black light settings from The Sims 3. And yes, you can make any light into a black light just by control shift clicking it, as long as you have the testing sheets enabled true turned on. You can make any light into a black light, and I think that that is such an awesome feature, a feature that I never use, and this is why. In The Sims 3, the lighting in The Sims 3 in general, there is a really aggressive bloom effect, especially when you use white surfaces and white objects. And I really designed the bowling basement around the black lights. I wanted to design it for black lights. And so I was really struggling with trying to avoid spots within this build, within the interior design of the bowling alley, where it really wasn't getting attacked by that Sims 3 bloom effect. So the lighting bloom is just, you know, it kind of, I really try to control it, is really what I'm trying to say here. And I hope that comes through, and that the real vision of the glow bowling experience is something that emulates in today's build, and something that resonates in today's build, I should say. So yeah, hopefully the Sims 3 bloom lighting doesn't throw you guys off too much with my design choices, but I really try to tame those down where I could, and sometimes I just couldn't. And I felt like I had to take some L's with the Sims 3 lighting bloom effect when using the black lights. For each of the levels, I tried to make each level of this lot build make a little bit of sense. And by that, I'm really talking about like how it actually functions as a FunPlex. And so on the roller rink level, I added some closets and also some like open store rooms, like just little lockers and stuff where Sims can put away their shoes and their coats and stuff to enjoy the rest of the roller rink. And I did the same as well to the bowling alley, because we all know you have to get into those awful bowling shoes at the bowling alley, and so you need a place to put your things. So I gave like, I didn't necessarily make it a huge focus of the lot, but I did give some open concept storage areas where you would just, you know, rent a lock from the salesperson, and then you just kind of go about your way there. And so by adding those little areas in there, even though it is a little bit of set dressing, I was trying to give a sense of um I was really trying to give a sense of reality on like how this lot would function were it to function in real life. And looking back on it now, I could have realistically used that ticket machine and just used one of those locked doors Again, it's another Sims 3 store item. I'm trying not to talk too much about that, but that's where I found it from, and you know, there are, yeah. And that was another approach I could have taken that I never thought of at the time of this build, and I actually don't think that I'll go back and add that in. Actually, like when looking at this build and watching it play back, there's really nothing that I would change about it. I think that it played out as best as it could be. Do I think it was ever going to be a masterpiece? No, I don't think so. I don't think it ever had the bones to be a masterpiece lot in of itself. Like nothing compared to, you know, my Goth Manor build, for example, which I think is really the bee's knees of what I've done on this channel. And same with the Cyberpunk build. Like those two lot builds have been absolute stunners of mine. And yes, I will give myself credit for that. But yeah, this one never was going to be a masterpiece lot build. It was just going to be something that players I hope will find enjoyable to have within their cities, and will enjoy connecting with, like by sending their Sims to this lot if they are just looking for a little bit of fun and they don't want to send them to the bar. So this kind of adds that place of entertainment for all ages, and that's really the purpose of this. It wasn't supposed to try too hard or try to be something more than what it was. And like I keep saying, it never had the bones to be a masterpiece, but I think it's quite honestly still a shining gem in the crowd. It might not be the most shining gem, but it's still a gem. But yeah, one thing that I did was I added in some snack bars on each of the levels. I think that, again, you know, trying to appease to realism, even though I think that a full-blown restaurant would be something you could, you know, see in a place like this. And now that I think about it, that could be an edit. I might add in a restaurant on the second floor there, and I'm looking at my notebook right now, and as soon as I finish this audio recording, I'm going to write that one down as an idea to at least flirt with the next time we get into an edit episode. But anyways, I put a snack bar on each of the levels. The snack bar again came from a theater lot build by EA from the Sims 3 store. It's hard to talk about these objects and not like cite where they're from here, so I do apologize that I'm not doing well with the struggle. But anyways, I put a snack bar on each of the levels. I feel like when you have people of all ages visiting, they're gonna want snacks and drinks and all of that. And but the thing with the snack bars is they function just like juice bars, so they actually don't fulfill like any kind of snack needs. And I did testing with this, of course, and it's really the full-on mixology bar from the late night expansion pack that allows you to like order, you know, tacos or order nachos. And these bars are from like the base game, if I remember correct. Well, okay, these particular bars are from the Sims 3 store, but they're a reskin of the base game bars, and that's just a bar that all you can do is serve drinks from. So kind of sucks, but I also didn't want to have a mixologist on this lot either, so I just kind of made do with what we had. I just decided to place the snack bars on each of the levels, and I also decided to just add vending machines and some popcorn and cotton candy objects like here and there periodically, just as a way to kind of make up for the fact that it is a little bit of set dressing that I wanted to be functional. Well, I think that we are about at the end of the episode. If the tours aren't already playing, then please stick around for those tours, as as there is quite a bit to show, and I think that I was able to capture this lot in its greatest splendor. I love the way that this lot turned out, and I think that there's nothing wrong with having a project going into it knowing that it's not going to be the best of the best of your work, but at the same time, like, this lot I feel achieves the highest potential it possibly could, with the exception of course of maybe adding in a restaurant, which is something I will consider adding in if the testing goes all right. Anyways, I'm going to leave it here for now. If you've enjoyed this episode, if you've enjoyed this build, then feel free to like this video and consider subscribing if you haven't already. In the next build, we are going to go back to Blue Water Village. I've got a really I've got a cool house build that I have got on the horizon, and I will just leave it at that. I will let you guys figure that one out as we get to it. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have yourselves a wonderful day.